This review was made possible by contributions from viewers like you.
Hey guys, welcome to this year's first installment of Bob Shaween. As you can tell, I'm not very happy right now. Why? Because today I'm reviewing Mummy, I'm a Zombie. You may remember that last year I reviewed Daddy, I'm a Zombie, which featured a teenage girl named Dixie, who in no way told her daddy that she was a zombie. It was a mediocre dark comedy which wasn't especially dark or comical, and it thought that quirky art direction was all that it would need to be successful. Audiences didn't exactly latch onto this film, so I really have no idea where the motivation for this sequel came from. Who is asking for more of this? What kind of story potential could a sequel possibly have? Hell, the movie itself even admits that it has nowhere to go. After a long-winded recap of the first movie, Dixie pretty much tells us that this movie has no point.
My life has changed since then. I see things differently. And most importantly, I'm happy.
Yep, she's happy. She was absolutely miserable in the first movie, and now she's lived happily ever after. There's no point to this movie. The end. Roll credits. Our movie truly opens on a couple of boys from Dixie's class doing a little ghost hunting at their local cemetery. They spot the ghost of that Peruska chick, who you may recall melted like a lump of cheese in the last movie, as well as a werewolf and a minotaur, who aren't supposed to be able to enter graveyards. That makes sense. One of the kids trips on a vase and then catches it because... Physics! Then they escape. Kinda pointless, really. This does not bode well for the rest of the movie. The next day, we see a cheerful Dixie being dropped off at school.
Bye, Dad. Have a nice day.
Enjoy your normal car, which isn't a hearse anymore. By the way, I'm all for warm, happy colors to enhance the mood, but these warm, happy colors just look uncomfortable and sickly. Now that Dixie is happy, is the movie swimming in pee? But yeah, during the course of the year that has passed between this movie and the last, Dixie has become one of the most popular kids in school. Her old bullies have decided that they're still better off tormenting her than finding some new plaything, and things between Dixie and her estranged mother are on the up and up. She even lets her invite her entire class to a party in her tiny greenhouse. Yep, things are ridiculously looking up for our young heroine. Time to punish her with some inexplicable pains that are so horrible that she has to be rushed to the hospital.
Everything will be just fine. You relax now. I hope you don't mind sharing the back seat with Mr. Molars.
The front seat is open! We can see that the front seat is open! What, is he expecting her to die between now and when they get to the hospital and he just wants to save a few steps? They get her to the hospital, and they frame her in the kind of shot that's usually reserved for expectant mothers. Movie, you have some splaining to do.
Close your eyes, sweetheart, and count to 3. 1, 2, 3.
What happened to me?
The doctors had to slice you open to remove that little rascal.
They gave her a C-section? Okay, so she just had some emergency appendicitis, but come on. With the way this was being built up, it looks like she was giving birth to a demon baby or something. Actually, let's really look at the scene. She's tucked into her bed so that we can't see any of her body, and she asks how many stitches they gave her.
Ouch! How many stitches did they give me?
As many as the number of days of the week.
The camera slowly zooms in on her. Her father is vague about the amount of stitches that she needed. They're gonna pull the blanket away and reveal that she has nothing but a head now! This movie just Shyamalan'd your asses! They get home, but Dixie is then greeted by her old zombie friends, Isis and Goner, who take her into the freaky-deaky otherworld. Yeah, I'm totally sure that this is actually happening and this isn't a dream. They tell her that Nebulosa is back to do something, And as the bearer of the Azoth, and no, we still don't have any idea what the Azoth actually is or what it does, it's up to Dixie to stop her. By the way, you remember Nebulosa's little jester minion from the last movie? The one she completely obliterated? They brought him back for this movie, and just called him his cousin. I've never heard of someone having a dream that tries to capture the feel of an earlier dream, while also paying attention to not make any continuity hiccups.
We got it, my lady!
Peroska, do you have it?
Great, they wrote the script backwards.
Here you go.
That's me.
We got it, my lady!
Peroska, do you have it? Peroska, do you have it?
We got it, my lady!
Apparently, Peroska was able to steal the essence of the Azoth, whatever the hell that means.
With the essence of the Azoth in your possession, you don't need to worry about the enemy anymore!
Dixie Grimm.
Yes, you heard right. The goth girl's name is Grimm. Meanwhile, in front of an unfinished special effects shot, seriously, what else could this blue wall at the back of the set be? Isis is trying to figure out what happened to the Azoth.
Maybe you spilled salt and don't remember.
Spilling salt as a bad omen has its origins in the Last Supper. Isis should not know this.
Or walked underneath a ladder leaning against the wall?
Walking under a ladder comes from medieval times, and the ladder is actually representative of the gallows. Ancient Egyptians did not hang their condemned. Isis should not know this.
Have you come across a hearse carrying a coffin?
Ancient Egyptians ferried their dead in funerary boats. Modern societies tend to use hearses. Isis should not know this. They go to see Vitriol, that Jim Henson hippie guy you may remember, about how to restore the Azoth, and he tells them to collect the 4 primal elements of creation: earth, wind, fire, and water. For their first element, earth, he gives them the stone egg of a gnome.
Oh, aren't gnomes the magical entity of the earth?
Okay, how does Isis know what a gnome is? Why couldn't it be the 21st century goth who might be interested in such things and have the means of researching such things? And gnomes come from eggs? I thought gnomes were just little dwarf-like creatures. Or are we talking about the gnomes from Return to Oz? It's not likely that they come from eggs. And what about the other elements? Are they going to have to get a baby dragon from Hagrid for their fire requirement? A griffin from Pazuzu? A kraken from Aquaman? Vitriol gives them a copy of Advancing the Plot for Dummies, which Isis grabs before Goner can offer his services as narrator.
I'll take care of this. You don't even know your ABCs.
Do you know your ABCs, little Miss Ancient Egyptian? While Dixie puts her quest to save the world on hold so she could go to school, her friends get word of the Halloween party she's going to throw, and they're disappointed upon learning that they weren't invited.
Oh, can I go? Can I go? Can I go? You definitely have a loose bandage. It's a party for mortals. But people dress up for Halloween. Nobody would even know we're zombies.
How do you know these things?
We shouldn't mix different worlds. Mortals should stick with mortals. Oh, and zombies with zombies.
What next? Is she going to talk about who should sit where on the bus? So they continue their quest for the elements, which is not without its hitches.
A dead end in the road! A bad omen, I forebode!
Isis, how about you take an eternal snooze and leave us alone?
Uh-oh, we hit a dead end. Speaking of dead ends, why don't you go kill yourself? I mean, sure, these two have been at each other's throats ever since the beginning, but damn! They figure that what they need for air must be at the top of this lighthouse. Okay, so it's up to Goner to get them inside.
You know, for a seafaring bandit, you are totally clueless.
You are saying.
Beginner's luck.
He used a key to open a lock. How much skill does he need for that? It turns out that Isis has issues with heights, and the movie does absolutely nothing with that. I'm afraid of heights. I'm going to be sick. How does that work? You don't even have a stomach. No arc where she has to overcome her fears. No jokes outside of this one scene that I had to put in there. Just nothing. It, like the rest of this movie, is completely pointless. Speaking of pointless, Remember how the zombies were vulnerable to sunlight? I'd be amazed if you did, seeing as how Goner was introduced in the dead of mid-afternoon. But yeah, because they're allegedly vulnerable to sunlight, that means that they're vulnerable to all light, meaning that it's up to Dixie to climb up on the roof, lest her friends get hit by the light.
If a ray of light flashes, zombies get turned into ashes.
You didn't hear that from your class, you just pulled that right out of your ass. Speaking of pulling things out of their asses, they think the elemental that they need must be inside the seagull egg, so Dixie distracts the seagull with a donut she just happens to have on her. How many donuts does she carry in her knot pockets? Now that they have the egg, they try to crack it open. They didn't think that cracking open the gnome egg was necessary, so of course this makes complete sense. And what's inside the egg? Not a seagull chick, not an undeveloped egg yolk, but a fairy corn! What?
Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you.
Said the girl who grabbed her like King Kong.
Ow!
It bit me!
What did you expect fairies to do?
And then it just turns into a rock. What was the point of it hatching if it was just going to turn into a rock? They take it back to Vitriol, who calls it a sylph. I know what a MILF is, but what does the S stand for?
And why did it petrify?
To preserve the power of the element it represents.
It turned into a rock to preserve the power of it being air?
Bullshit!
Dixie needs to take a break so she can go to school the next day. Then when nightfall comes...
Shiver me timbers, it's just us.
It wasn't funny at all.
So she falls asleep and then her friends instantly show up again? Is this the dream? Or are we dreaming while we're already inside the dream? Cue the bois. They go to a nearby cemetery to look for a salamander, which is supposed to be the fire elemental they need. Okay. When they're interrupted by those boys from before.
The living dead are so crazy about cats.
That's nice.
No, stupid. Cats are their favorite food.
Wait. Hold on. Cats are a zombie's favorite food? Not human brains? Thanks for betraying everything that we know about zombies, movie. The Walking Dead isn't a survival story. It's meant to raise awareness for pet adoption. And it turns out that they're right. Goner starts going nuts after the mere mention of eating some fresh, tasty pussy. Cats. 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 Thousands. Millions of them. Dixie scares them away, and it turns out that the salamander they're looking for is actually a decorative bit of this urn that they just happened to find while hiding in this mausoleum.
Where'd it go? Don't move. What's it doing?
You don't want to know.
Neither do we, but we're treated to a nice big close-up of it! Just when the salamander thinks it's gotten away by escaping into this tiny koi pond, Dixie rips a tombstone out of the ground and surfs on it to get to him. 1. Tombstones are friggin' heavy, and they're not gonna be ripped out of the ground by a 90-pound girl. 2. Tombstones can't float! Stones of any kind tend to, sink like a rock! This is Jasper tobogganing in the summer levels of stupid right here! So yeah, she gets the salamander, which also turns into a rock. What is the point of making these elements animals that you have to capture, and they're just gonna turn into rocks? This isn't Pokemon! Anyway, the salamander also turns into a rock. Then we jump to the next day, where Dixie is hanging with her bootylicious mom. When they start talking about Dixie's party, Mom has this piece of advice to give her.
There's something you should understand about social group dynamics.
What?
You have to pick and choose, love. You can't be in two worlds at once.
It might be good advice to tell your child that you aren't going to please everyone in your attempts to make friends, but you can't be part of multiple social groups. If you're a Trekkie, you can't enjoy Star Wars. If you're a burger guy, you can't like hot dogs. You can't like South Park and Family Guy?
Then again, they did say earlier that mortals should be with mortals and zombies should be with zombies.
Oh yeah, right. Apparently segregation is the only way to go. Speaking of who Dixie should and shouldn't be hanging out with, Gunnar is having some trouble reconciling his relationship with his buxom beauty.
Me hearty, what have I done? What's become of us?
You're a zombie! Most girls don't like zombies!
It's just that I am so tired.
I never want to be tired.
I didn't have to live 2 lives before in just 24 hours.
Do you still like me or not?
Of course I do. But you need to give me some time.
I just need a little time.
Truly, theirs is a love for the ages. But oh no, those boys from before managed to trap Gunnar.
Thunderbolts, let me out of here, or hang you from the yardarm and feed it to the fish!
Now we have the proof we needed.
No one can smock us anymore.
No one can smock us anymore?
Mock us, moron. It's mock, not smock.
Said the proofreader to the screenwriter. They bring Dixie and a good chunk of their class over to their house to show off their catch. Dixie denies their accusations that he's her friend, which causes him to escape and sell her out to Nebulosa. And I'm pretty sure we're still supposed to sympathize with him somehow.
She's headed for the nymph spawn to get the 4th element!
She's headed for the nymph's butt to get the 4th element? Isis tries to get Dixie to seek out the 4th element with her, but Dixie's just kinda done with all this because she's tired of living in 2 worlds at once. It makes her so endearing as a character to know that she can just suddenly decide to stop helping her friends on a whim. So Isis goes off to the nymph's butt on her own, and I can only assume that this place is so named because the nymphs who live here are butt ugly. She turns one of the nymphs into the 4th rock that she needs by accidentally beaching it, which is a weird way of preserving its wateriness. But Peroska shows up and shoves her into the water. Dixie shows up too late and tries to avenge her friend, but she's quickly taken down by one of the nymphs. Now there's nothing to stop Nebulosa from controlling the zombies. Sorry, but zombies just aren't scary anymore. Kitties! Kitties! Nebulosa makes them cry havoc all over this local fair, because this is the first logical place to take over the world with an army of zombies. Dixie makes it out of her watery grave because the Azoth just magically started working again, because the plot said so, shut up. She finds the 4th element, and she tries to gain control of the zombies for herself.
By the power invested in me through this jewel, I order you to return to your tombs!
And what power is that?
The power of the real bearer of the Azoth!
That Azoth is a rock. It has no real power, and you are a farce. She's not even a zombie.
It's true. You're absolutely right. I'm not a zombie. But I see all of you swarming and eating cats and having a good time, and I just wanted to feel like I belong. Won't you let me belong?
Who are you really, Dixie Grimm?
Earth, air, fire, and water!
Wind, water, heart!
Honesty, inspiration, will, and courage!
Did saying those words make her take love's true form?
Leave the zombies alone! Just because they don't look like all of you doesn't mean they're so different.
No, they are abominably boorish monsters. They should be annihilated.
The 2 worlds don't need to destroy each other.
They're trying to eat you! Nebulosa apparently kills Dixie. The zombies gang up on her because they take offense to someone killing a corpse for some reason. But then Dixie wakes up for real this time. She says hello to her recently removed appendix, and she has her Halloween party with all of her friends who had no bearing on the plot in any way whatsoever. So that was... pointless! I have never seen a sequel that meant so little to the original movie. The first movie just flat out tells us that everything with the zombies was a dream, and not once does this movie try to confirm that any of this was actually happening. Dixie gets to see her zombie friends again, but they're so inconsequential that Goner does absolutely nothing in the finale, and Isis goes out like a bitch instead of having a death that actually means something to the plot. Hell, even Dixie's iconic image of her zombiness is presented as pointless, since we don't even see it until the very end of the movie. Her zombie form, which, by the way, isn't even witnessed by her mother or her mummy friend. Not only is this movie pointless, but you can't even trust the damn title! So yeah, this movie was a complete waste of time, but be sure to tune in next week when we'll be looking at something a little more... spookly. See you later.
They're playing your song, honey. Let's dance.
It's the mommy. It's the mommy. It's the mommy. It's the mommy. Turns till it wound up tight. Turns till it loose, that's right. Mad mommy dance. He's in a trance. All wrapped up in himself tonight. It's the mommy. It's the mommy. It's the mommy. It's the mommy. Turns till it wound up tight. Turns till it loose, that's right. Mad mommy dance. He's in a trance. All wrapped up in himself tonight. It's the mommy. It's the mommy. It's the mommy. It's the mommy.
Subscribe, like, follow, comment, share, watch more.